My question is, you started creating content to critique the right, but your latest video centered largely in questioning the far left. How do you feel about that shift?
When I started out on YouTube, like YouTube was like, I mean, it was like a borderline like Nazi recruitment ground. Like it was so far right. I guess YouTube's changed. It's really, really changed since then. And I guess in my, I was seeing them all over the place on Twitter, in my mentions. It became sort of unavoidable. I do feel it's somewhat worth talking about. Like it's worth addressing these people and worth addressing. This represents like a problem with the left, like a self-defeating, self-destructive tendency that I do think genuinely does need to be critiqued. But I'm also aware that I do have like, at this point, like a borderline pathological fixation on it. And that's partially because I'm like the amount of like vitriol I get online is so like these days it's so disproportionately from that kind of person. Like I don't, the right-wing harassment is nothing compared to the amount of like of kind of hatred and negativity coming at me from that part of the internet.
You know what's really fucking annoying right now is having to listen to everybody endlessly shit on the Democrats. They literally have to deal with all the shit coming from Republicans and then have to turn around and deal with whatever bullshit leftists are peddling. That's like stupid. They are able to dominate this narrative of, oh, well, the Democrats aren't doing anything or they don't get anything done.
If you set a bar that's too high, that your people can't pass, and the other side doesn't have a bar, they're always going to be more politically effective than you.
Okay, I'm ready to end this video.
The way you shake it, I can't believe it.
Have you read Ezra Klein's Green Lantern Theory of Politics article from like 2011? Nope. Now I'm curious.
The distribution of our Congress is heavily favored towards the Republicans. The House of Representatives is 219 Republicans and 212 Democrats, with 4 vacancies because like 3 of our people died this year. Rest in peace. The Senate is 53 Republicans to 45 Democrats and 2 independents. So yeah, we ain't got shit for power.
Presidents consistently overpromise and underdeliver. What they need to say to get elected far outpaces what they can actually do in office. President Obama is the perfect example. His 2008 campaign didn't just promise healthcare reform, stimulus bill, and financial regulation. It also promised a cap and trade bill to limit carbon emissions, comprehensive immigration reform, gun control, and much more. His presidency, he said, would be change America could believe in. But it's clear now that much of the change he promised isn't going to happen. In large part because he doesn't have the power to make it happen. Why can't the president be more like the Green Lantern? Oh, I see where this is going. Oh, I already fucked with this article. Let me tell you what. How did the Green Lantern get involved in all this? The Green Lantern Corps is a fictional intergalactic peacekeeping entity that exists in DC Comics. Members of the Corps get a power ring that is capable of creating green energy projections of almost unlimited power. The only constraint is the willpower and imagination of the ring's wearer.
It's bad enough that even if the Democrats try to do something on their own, there's just no way they can do it. And somehow they're like, you guys need to leverage your power more. Okay, shut the fuck up. You don't even know what their power is, or you pretend they have some that they don't.
We'll now go to voting because we have competing markups and other committees and people have to leave here soon. We'll go to Bovey's nomination. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, point of personal privilege.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, according to Rule 4 of the committee, we have the right to continue to debate this nomination.
No.
I'm invoking Rule 4 of the committee. We have the right to debate this nomination.
You're out of order.
I'm seconding
Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
Booker's demand for a vote on his request to hear from the whistleblower.
Mr. Chairman, you should at least acknowledge my Rule 4 point of order.
You're out of order.
I don't understand this. We're not pressing for the 2-hour rule like you all did when you were in the minority. We're simply asking for a credible amount of time to air our concerns before the vote. This is about understanding that people on this side have a responsibility to state their issues. Mr. Sir, you could call me out of order because this is out of order. You're violating your own rules. The parliamentarian has been clear about this. The parliamentarian has been clear. You could overrule the rule, the point of order I'm doing, but you have to follow the precedents and procedures of this committee. Sir, with all appeals to your decency, with all appeals to your integrity, with all appeals to past jurisdiction and past precedent, why are you doing this? This is outrageous.
This is a kangaroo court. That's all we have here, Mr. Chairman.
This is wrong. To violate your own rules without going by the mandates of the parliamentarian. This is unbelievable. This is wrong, sir, and I join with my colleagues in leaving. This is a sham.
Vote.
This is wrong.
We'll report.
We're better than this.
Pratt to the floor. Now we'll have to vote on these nominees for U.S. Attorney because we don't have enough people on the other side, so we can't do it by voice vote.
Republicans can pass whatever legislation they want, and unless another Republican goes against them, nobody can do anything. In fact, there was 5 Republicans that opposed Trump's big, beautiful bill, and even that wasn't enough to stop it.
Chris Murphy, I don't know, is it fun? Are you having a great time, Senator?
No, this sucks. I mean, we're debating a bill that's going to cut health care for 16 million people. It's going to give a tax break to, massively wealthy people who don't need any more money. There are going to be kids who go hungry because of this bill. This is the biggest reduction in, nutrition benefits for kids in the history of the country. I mean, this is the most deeply immoral piece of legislation that I have ever voted on in my entire time in Congress. We're obviously going to continue to offer these amendments to try to make it better. So far, not a single one of our amendments to try to make the bill better has passed, but we'll be here all day, probably all night.
Why the fuck did they pretend that Biden and Harris did nothing or not enough during their term?
What is the Green Lantern theory of the presidency? According to Brendan Neon, the Dartmouth political scientist who coined the term, the Green Lantern theory of the presidency is the belief that the president can achieve any political or policy objective if only he tries hard enough or uses the right tactics. Jesus, why am I just now reading this article? What's wrong with the Green Lantern theory of the presidency? Basically, it denies the very real and very important limits on the power of the American presidency. The founding fathers were rebelling against an out-of-control monarch, so they constructed a political system with a powerful legislature and a relatively weak executive. The result is that the US president has little formal power to make Congress do anything. He can't force Congress to vote on a bill. He can't force Congress to pass a bill. And even if he vetoes a bill, Congress can simply override his veto. So in direct confrontations with Congress, and that describes much of American politics these days, the president has few options. Green Lantern theorists don't deny any of this. They just believe that there's some vague combination of public speeches and private wheedling that the president can employ to bend Congress to his will.
Under the Biden administration, we saw with the expansion of the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid, we saw over 8 million people become eligible for Medicaid who were previously not eligible. If we contrast that right now with what's in Trump's big, beautiful bill, over a 10-year period, that would make between 15 and 16 million people ineligible for Medicaid. So it seems on a crucial economic issue that affects people's ability to, survive, have quality health care, live quality lives. There seems to be a stark contrast.
They say on Medicare, we should negotiate drug prices. The Democrats say, and then they never deliver. They didn't even try to negotiate drug prices other than on insulin and maybe 10 other drugs. And you go, well, that's pretty good. No, that's 10 drugs out of tens of thousands of drugs. While the Democrats do some things that are positive, they do it almost as a release valve. So they go, okay, here's another example that you mentioned, the Affordable Care Act. You know what it was called before it was called Obamacare?
You can enlighten me.
Yeah.
Oh, the Romney was a plan that was tried in a Republican state.
Exactly. It was called Romney Care.
Yeah.
Bottom line is that was a tiny, tiny little fix thought of by a right-wing think tank. The Democrats are constantly doing 5 to 10% as a little release valve.
Sometimes it's hard to pass legislation in a bitterly divided Congress. Would you acknowledge that it's difficult very often in order to get things done? You don't. You don't
See, that is the number one excuse Democrats use. Oh, golly gee, there was nothing we could do. And they're saying, there was nothing we could do. There was nothing we could do.
You would think voters in general and professional media pundits in particular would by now be wise to this pattern, but they're not. Each disappointment wounds anew. Each unchecked item on the to-do list is a surprise. Belief in the presidency seems to be entirely robust to the inability of any particular president to make good on their promises. And so the criticism is always the same. Why can't the president be more like the Green Lantern?
When you talk about this concept of like a release valve, it seems like you're downplaying very relevant and very important differences that exist between the parties. So the Affordable Care Act, you understand that expanded coverage to like millions of people. More people got Medicaid, premiums are subsidized. Like, this is good policy. And I agree with you. Sometimes, in many cases, Democrats lack a spine. They don't push hard enough. But I think chalking that up to like, they're pretty much the same, there's just a little release valve difference is a little bit reductive.
Yeah, it's not at all reductive, and the Affordable Care Act is a perfect example of it. So you're right, it was better than the previous system because the previous system had pre-existing conditions, and you can get blocked for that, and the American people despise that. So it needed to be changed. That is part of the reason why a right-wing think tank, Heritage Foundation, came up with Romney Care. It's a release valve. And it's a Republican idea. Then Mitt Romney took it and passed it in Massachusetts. That's why it's called Romney Care.
You think the ACA is like a right-wing health insurance plan?
It was literally created by a right-wing think tank,
the
Heritage
Republicans
Foundation.
right now in Congress are trying to push a reconciliation bill that literally guts Medicaid when the ACA expanded Medicaid.
Yes. So they always move the goalposts. So what do? They bring in, okay, here's our release valve. Okay, now the American people are still mad. Of course they are. Let's talk about the next steps that happened. Obama said, oh yeah, we might do the public option, which would have been not universal health care, but a good step forward. And I was like, yes, you got to do the public option. Then Obama says publicly, oh, I guess we can't do the public option. Wink. Well, and they immediately took it out of the bill.
Right?
What's that?
That's because of Joe Lieberman, right? But 59 other Democrats would have voted for the public option.
Okay, see, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So that they always, hold on, they always have an excuse. So right now, under Biden, the excuse was, oh, we don't have enough senators. Oh, golly gee.
That's how you pass laws, though.
The filibuster and the parliamentarian. And then under Obama, they had 60. They could pass anything they wanted. They're like, let's take a really, really long time with Romney Care. Oh, oops, we ran out of our 60. Things changed. Okay, now the Republicans are ignoring the parliamentarian when they're trying to pass this bill. So the Democrats keep finding excuses. Why did they take the public option out of the bill?
You think Obama
Why did they
didn't
never
want the
introduce
public
option back again? I don't think the Democrats want the public option at all.
When 59 senators said we'll vote yes on this, and Lieberman
That's
tanked
what I'm
that.
trying to tell you, brother. They don't mean it. So let me give you two examples.
Where are you getting that from?
Where am I getting it from?
If
Joe,
Lieberman
where am I
agreed, would
getting
we not
it
have
from?
gotten
Number
the public
one,
option?
the public option polls at over 70%. They didn't even try to pass it.
Sure, but
Number two,
healthcare
when
policy-
Biden came into office, said he was going to do public option, and then he lied, and he never once introduced
had,
it.
like, no
If he never
political
once
capital
introduced
compared to Obama.
Oh, now they don't have political capital. Golly gee,
These are the
constant
realities
excuses
of how
for,
you pass
oh my God,
legislation,
I can't. The voters
It's
are
not I
sick
can't.
of I can't.
It's not
Why
I
don't you
can't.
actually
It's more-
try?
it's more
So tell me
difficult.
why they're such losers. They
It's
can't
more-
pass paid family leave at
Listen,
84%.
I
Are they
agree with you
losers,
on
or do they
policy.
actually secretly agree with the Republicans
Cenk.
and they don't want any of this because
I
they're corporate
agree-
donors?
I agree with you on policy. I want paid family leave. I want single payer health care. But this is not like super easy to pass. You're like, if they just all
Yes,
hold
it
their
is.
hand and
I
sing
can get it passed in
Kumbaya,
2 weeks.
we're going to get like
2
single
weeks.
payer.
Okay, so here's how you do it. Guys, you see, you've been taught by mainstream media and Democratic politicians to accept failure. Oh my God, there's nothing we can do to pass it. There's nothing. Here's how what you do.
Can't pass it, but it's
super
difficult.
easy.
It's not
Listen,
easy.
The Green Lantern theory also infantilizes Congress. Take this Maureen Dowd column, in which she argues that it's actually the president's job to force Congress to behave, as if the most powerful and democratic branch of the American government is just a bunch of petulant children waiting for discipline.
Realistically, he had 2 years to get a bill passed. It's the truth. At the end of the day, right, if Joe Manchin sticks it somewhere and he says, well, okay, maybe I'll let you have an expansion of the child tax credit, for example, if you keep it at 21. We don't know all the backdoor negotiations that happened between Joe Biden and Joe Manchin. At the end of the day, right, you can't have everything you want, whether you're Joe Manchin or Joe Biden.
did you ever consider that they don't mean it? The reason that Joe Biden never tried to raise corporate taxes is because he doesn't want corporate taxes to go up. It was all a trick. It was all a game played on all of us.
No, I don't buy it.
No, I know. There was nothing they could do. That's why they didn't even bother trying. They never bothered trying on any of this. And you keep insisting,
Look.
well, good enough. I'll take my 5% change. Thank you, sir. May I have another, sir?
This kind of thing both lets Congress off the hook and confuses Americans about where the power actually lies in American politics, and thus about who to hold accountable.
I worry about your progressive populism is dangerous. In fact, to me, you kind of sound like a political pickup artist. Like, just do this one trick and we can fix it all. And to me, it's no different than what MAGA is doing with their faux populism, with the deep state, with undocumented immigrants, someone to blame. You're just giving people corporate, corrupt Democrats or corporate media as an excuse. And I think you're just taking advantage of disaffected people and not showing them we got to get more involved. We got to invest more. We got to try harder and get good people in there.
You have this giant agenda, $15 minimum wage, all the things that we've talked about throughout the day. Oh, golly gee, we just couldn't pass any of it. Oh, wow, okay. But hey, vote for an establishment Democrat. Don't get tricked by left-wing populism. Brother, do we actually ever try left-wing populism?
Yes.
Here's the three things we've tried. We've tried establishment Democrats, complete failures. We've tried establishment Republicans, complete failures. We tried fake populism under Donald Trump, complete failure.
I disagree.
So the only thing we haven't tried is left-wing populism.
Jake,
and you say, don't try it. Go back to the establishment Democrats. Go back to the donor class. Are you crazy? Let's try the one thing we didn't try. The Bernie Sanders wing, economic populism.
That's not how it works. You can't just go to the country and go like, hey guys, we've tried all this other stuff. Can we try this thing now? That's not how it works. You have to win votes. Why don't you go win some fucking state votes and then show us you actually have the possibility of being competitive on a federal level, and then we'll take an actual election seriously. Like, he's turned into the Libertarian Party, where they don't even try to win at local levels. Like, oh, fuck it, every 4 years, let's just go ahead and throw up our candidate and see if we can win a presidential election. Lol.
Don't try it. Go back to the establishment Democrats. Go back to the donor class. Are you crazy? Let's try the one thing we didn't try.
Just keep repeating the same points over and over and over again. Yes.
You say the American Rescue Plan that took half the kids in poverty out of it, millions of kids who go to bed hungry, is crumbs, is doing nothing? That is a big deal. What about the millions of people who have health insurance now because of the Affordable Care Act subsidies? No, you can call whatever you want, but the reality is millions of people have health insurance today because of what the Democrats did when they controlled the House, the Senate, and the White House in 2022 under the Inflation Reduction Act and the American Rescue Plan. I can't stand that you call it crumbs.
You say you're super happy with the 5 to 10% that the Democrats gave you.
It's not.
God, he's so cringe. As opposed to the 0 to 0% that the progressives have given, as opposed to the 0 to 0% your far left idealistic ideas have got us, as opposed to the 0 to 0% that you have gotten every time you ran for office. Like, come on.
There's two things here. Number one, I don't know what economic class you're in, but the average American is not happy with 5 to 10% change. They want giant change. Why not try the entire agenda? Why not go with an economic class?
Because we live in a democracy. Because we live in a democratic republic where people vote for politicians that they want to represent on the federal level. And I know that it hurts. I know that it hurts, especially for, ooh, never mind. Just kidding. I know that it hurts. But you just have to accept that there are other people with different ideas than you. I almost got racist there for a second.
Jake, like Bernie Sanders or Ro Khanna, that's going to give you the whole agenda and actually try. Why give up ahead of time?
Those are great plans, and we should strive for them. But this is a giant country. We're the third largest country in the world. We have a complicated democracy. We have to do things slowly. I know you don't like that. I know you want to get there, boom, boom, boom. But people do not want to abandon what they're used to. It sounds great on paper. Would you like single-payer healthcare where you save trillions of dollars and you pay less? Of course. But then when you show people how we get there, they're scared, they're nervous, and they have a right-wing media machine on overload that is scaring the hell out of people. That's what we're up against. This is reality, man.
The tranquilizing drug of gradualism. So they tell you, don't worry, we'll do that tiny bit, and then when you elect us again, we'll do another tiny bit, and 200 years later, this will get done.
Millions of kids
let me
not
explain.
going to bed hungry is a tiny bit, Jake.
Let me explain
Really?
in the context of healthcare. They say, we're for universal healthcare. You go, okay, great, let's do Medicare for all. Oh, no way, wait too long. Okay, no problem, no problem. Can we do public option? This debate goes all the way back to the Affordable Care Act. They go, oh, yeah, sure, we love the public option. Oh, golly, gee, we had to take the public option out. There was nothing we could do. Okay, Obama says he had to take it out because the drug companies were opposed to it. First of all, you're admitting that you're giving into the donor class. Then Joe Biden comes in and goes, how can we do public option?
We have
Instead over 70%.
We have 50-50 split Senate with guys like Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema.
You know how you do it, brother? You know how you do it?
Get rid of the filibuster?
By trying.
They try. Jake, they try every day.
No, but literally
You're
they
not
didn't.
on the inside.
No,
you don't know.
You're stating a misstatement, okay? So Joe Biden never introduced the public option. If you never introduced the public option, by definition, you did not try. No. Second of all, how do you pass it? Oh, the Senate is split. Okay, you put pressure on. So can pressure work politically? Well, we know because Donald Trump did it to Republicans. Now, he did it for his own cause and for his own self-aggrandizement. But anytime a Republican crossed him in the first term, he said, we're going to eliminate Joe Wilson in South Carolina, and boom, he was eliminated. Now, imagine if you did that.
You want to bully our senators?
Yes, I do.
That's
Absolutely.
What you want to do? You want to threaten their lives? What do you want to do to them?
So can I explain?
They represent their people.
No,
Joe
they
Manchin
don't.
represents
No,
his
they don't.
people. They sent him there. How do you know that? You're not from West Virginia.
Okay, hold on. They represent their donors.
The
So
BS.
okay.
It's an excuse.
Oh yeah,
It's
I
an
know.
excuse.
The donors
It's a
are non-existent.
boogeyman. It's
They're
a boogeyman.
non-existent.
More
millions
people-
of dollars given to Joe
More
Manchin. He
people
doesn't care about
donated
that.
to Kamala than
Do you know
outside
that
groups
Joe-
in this election
do you know-
cycle. It's
do
a
you-
boogeyman, and you're
Okay,
wasting people's time with this.
Nonsense.
Ron Fournier, a prominent Green Lantern theorist, offers a fairly typical prescription for presidential success. Quote, he could talk to the media and the public more often and with a more compelling and sustained message. We've heard this before, bro. I've heard this from people. Just go on a tour and, like, use the bully pulpit. He could build enduring relationships in Washington rather than being so blatantly transactional with his time. He could work harder and with more empathy on Capitol Hill to find win-win opportunities with Republicans. The problem with this is that the Green Lantern theory isn't just false, it's often backwards. The basic idea is that more aggressive and consistent applications of presidential power will break down opposition. But political science research shows the truth is often just the opposite. When the president takes a position on an issue, the opposing party becomes far more likely to take the opposite position. This kind of thing both lets Congress off the hook and confuses Americans about where the power actually lies in American politics, and thus about who to hold accountable.
Your claim is that Democrats don't want to pass their agenda. You've talked about $15 an hour minimum wage. So how can you explain then that Joe Biden did in fact increase to $15 an hour for federal contractors with an increase again this year to $17.75?
Yeah. So again, it's a release valve. So why?
How is that a
Hold
release
on. Yes, because it affects a tiny percentage of
It affects
Americans.
300,000 people.
300,000 out of 330 million people. So that's why if you actually did a federal minimum wage, moved it to $15, that would move $92 billion from corporations to the average American. Okay, so that's what we want. I assume you want it. I want it. All Democrats want it. It polls at around 67%. So what I'm saying to all of you guys is, please expect better of your politicians. So when they give you a 3%, oh, hey, look, I did it for 300,000 people. Hey, look, the drug prices, I lowered it on 10 drugs out of 10,000 drugs. Don't say that's good enough.
But
They're
Jane,
shielding.
you just said
That's a shield so that you don't question them when they say, oh, I'm not going to do it for everyone.
You just said that all Democrats want to raise it to $15 an hour. That has not been your claim this entire time.
No, voters.
Voters,
Yeah.
right. But Democratic politicians do too. If Joe
No, they don't.
Biden didn't want to do it, why did he increase it?
But
For
wait a minute.
federal contractors,
So then-
he didn't have the votes to pass it.
That's exactly what I'm telling you. So what he does is he does it for 5% of people with student debt relief. He did it for 10% of people. He didn't do it for 90%. So in the case
why
of the
do
federal
anything
minimum
at
wage,
all?
let me bring it back to you. Federal minimum wage. So he says, oh, progressives, don't worry. It's bare minimum. We're definitely going to do it. So they pass it in the House. They bring it to the Senate. Joe Biden does an interview during the Super Bowl right after he's elected. And he says, oh, we're taking $15 minimum wage out of the bill. The Republicans didn't take it out of the bill. Joe Biden took it out of the bill.
Trump did.
And then
Trump did get rid of it on executive order.
Okay,
so now
so-
they don't have it at all.
right.
So you're saying then that Trump, you're saying that Democrats and Republicans are both equal in terms of economics, right? How is that equal in terms of economics when Joe Biden raised it and then Trump took it away by executive order?
So, but wait a minute. But you're saying that even though he took it out, and then when Bernie put it back in, 8 Democratic senators, including the 2 Delaware senators that are the closest allies of Biden, voted against federal minimum wage being increased to $15. So can you not see that they're literally voting against it? They're literally taking it out of the bill. They're literally tricking you. They don't actually want to pass it. They get your vote by saying, oh, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And then the minute they get in office, they're like, I was just kidding, take it out of the bill.
What evidence do you have that Joe Biden actually did want those senators to vote against it? What evidence do you
Two
have
pieces of
that?
evidence. Number one, it passed in the House, and I even talked to Democratic congressmen. They assured me, don't worry, it's going to pass in the Senate. It goes to the Senate, and it's out of the bill. Schumer made that decision in conjunction with Joe Biden. So why did Schumer and Biden take it out of the bill? That's
Okay.
my evidence.
So Cenk, is your claim then that
And then
all...
secondly, by the way, when they did vote on it, his 2 biggest allies, both the Delaware senators, voted against the $15 minimum wage. That's overwhelming evidence. Do you think that they didn't ask Joe Biden? No, they called Joe Biden, and Joe Biden said vote against it because he was lying.
That's not, it's just not true. But also,
That is literally true, and anybody can look it up.
Are you claiming then that all Democrats that take corporate money are against the people? Is that your claim?
Absolutely,
Okay,
yes.
so then why did TYT take $20 million of corporate
Here
money?
Doesn't this let Obama off the hook? For what? Not doing things he doesn't have the power to do? Obama can do a good or a bad job within the actual limits of the presidency. The problem with the Green Lantern theory is that it focuses so much attention on the presidency that it lets everyone else off the hook, and thus makes it harder for voters to hold elected leaders accountable. I feel so fucking seen by this article right now, you guys.
They operate their shows and information based on what they think people should care about, not necessarily what they actually care about. And I hate to break it to you, the American electorate does not care about Gaza that much, nor COVID. It's not a priority. For most of them, it's inflation and immigration. And another thing, the inflammatory rhetoric of calling it a genocide over and over and accusing people of the most heinous positions because they don't immediately agree with you is fucked up and not helping anyone. I mean, when the conflict started, it was an open air prison, then it was a concentration camp, and now it's a genocide. And it's been a genocide for like going on 2 years, and now that there's actually credible reports of starvation happening, people don't know what to believe because there's constantly misinformation or muddied reports coming out of there. So yeah, if anything, whatever happens to the Palestinians or the genocide is on you because you're fucking this up. Yeah, it's sad because like if I ask the average person what they would think about what's going on in Israel-Palestine, at this point, a lot of them don't fucking care about either side. The most common reaction is just like stop interfering and let them figure it out themselves. Which, I don't know if anybody wants that in reality. Realistically, what could the Democrats even do about Israel-Palestine or what's happening in Gaza? Nothing. Bernie Sanders just held a pointless vote to virtue signal, and when it didn't get votes, everyone wanted to pile on any Democrat that didn't participate in that. It was pointless. It wasn't going to pass, even if every single Democrat did vote for it, and it was a stupid gesture that meant nothing. And even with it happening, people still call Bernie a Zionist and are pissed at him for not saying it's genocide. It's like even when they try and do stuff, they still piss off. They still piss off the lefties who it's not enough for.
This tweet that I made was very clearly implying horseshoe theory purposes because Fuentes was in it, but then Progressive Victory retweeted it. So that's an anti-centrist W. And the vast majority of people complaining about this from the left, because that was the first wave of people who were like noticing this picture. They were like, electoralism, cringe. Basically, the idea is that Jamal Bowman, despite being the most pro-Palestine candidate, is not pro-Palestine enough. And that electoralism is not the way to achieve your political goals. And the actual way to do it is to firebomb a McDonald's and then not actually firebomb a McDonald's. As this picture circulated, eventually 4chan picked up on it. And then some people started to key in on what I was doing here. I was door knocking while he was doing this with AOC and Bernie.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
And then pro-Palestine supporters came and crashed this rally. So explain to me why anyone would do electoral politics, please, right now. Can anyone explain this to me? Why would you sacrifice your time and energy to do something that's just going to get complained about by the vast majority of people, your political enemies, but also your political allies? It doesn't make any sense.
Like all of the shit that Biden accomplished during his term as president, which was a shit ton of stuff, they act like it was nothing.
Bipartisan legislation passed. I mean, infrastructure bill, $1 trillion worth of infrastructure to upgrade our bridges, our tunnels, something that we've been needing for decades. A guy who brought back manufacturing to America with the CHIPS and Science Act. You know, just a solid leader when people are looking for that. As far as his presidency goes, I think this is probably one of the best in my lifetime, and I appreciate what he did.
I mean, not to mention everything they're doing this year to challenge the Trump administration. We are 6 months into this presidency, and Trump has been sued 298 times. Those are the active, open lawsuits. I mean, California's threatening Texas to do their own gerrymandering if they're trying to eliminate Democratic seats, which Trump specifically asked them to do. This is just corruption out in the open. Why is anyone accepting this? Oh, there's also the Texas Democrats that are going to another state to challenge the special session that Governor Abbott has called in Texas to do the gerrymandering. That's awesome.
Districting drama. Governor Newsom is doubling down on his plan to call a statewide special election this November to redraw congressional maps here in the state of California. And new today, Governor Newsom says that Democratic leaders in the legislature are backing his proposal aimed at helping Democrats pick up U.S. House seats across the state during the 2026 election. All of it, according to Governor Newsom, is a response to President Trump and Texas Republicans as they are trying to redraw congressional maps in the Lone Star State to help Republicans win more seats there.
Fox 40 Capitol reporter Eitan Wallace was with Newsom today and has his message.
We're not going to roll over, and we're going to fight fire with fire.
Governor Gavin Newsom with that message, vowing to fight President Donald Trump's plan, calling on Republicans in the Texas legislature to redraw congressional districts in the Lone Star State. The idea, according to Trump, is to shift 5 Democratic-leaning districts into Republican-leaning districts, all with the goal to pick up 5 GOP U.S. House seats in the 2026 midterm election.
These folks don't play by the rules. If they can't win playing the game with the existing set of rules, they'll change the rules. That's what Donald Trump has done. He's dialing for seats.
The Texas legislature was supposed to vote Monday on new proposed congressional maps put forth by Republicans, but
members, a quorum is not present.
No vote ever took place Monday because Texas Democratic representatives fled the state to prevent the Texas legislature from having a quorum. No quorum means no vote.
Whatever they are doing will be neutered here in the state of California.
Specifically, he says, if Texas Republicans move forward with their plan, then Newsom would consider a plan to redraw California's 52 congressional districts to help Democrats pick up U.S. House seats statewide in the 2026 midterm election.
I mean, Trump has done so many impeachable things that the fact that no one in the Republican Party is willing to join the Democrats in impeaching him just goes to show that they have no fucking backbone. They're actively passing legislation that harms their constituents because Trump wants them to. I mean, Trump's already proved that he doesn't need to declare national emergency to do tariffs. He's going to do them regardless. And Congress is not going to do anything to reel that back in when they are supposed to be the ones that manage it.
Leading by example, taking the fight directly into Republican backyards.
I'm so proud to be here with you all. This isn't about Democrats versus Republicans. It's about the people versus the problem. Donald Trump is the problem. Elon Musk is the problem. And if you're here and you voted for Trump in the past, my message is simple. I'm sorry you were lied to, but welcome to the team.
All right, Congressman Hudson, me and Maxwell and your chair and your minority leader, we came here because apparently you are not willing to talk to your constituents, but there's a few of your constituents that are here with us today, and they have a question for you.
So you've been hosting a series of town halls across the state of Texas, and you've done this before. You've obviously ran for the U.S. Senate in 2018. You ran for governor in 2022. And so how do these town halls right now feel different from even previous election cycles where Democrats were overperforming, like in 2018?
I think like a lot of people right now, I'm just trying to do whatever I can to be helpful. And I just know from the Senate race in 18, the governor's race in 22, we just have this ability to bring people together, and importantly, not just Democrats. So, Austin, Dallas, Houston, we got to be there. But we've been in Mansfield, we've been in Amarillo, we've been in Wichita Falls, we've been in Denton, Texas. These are the places, frankly, that have been either taken for granted by Republicans or written off by Democrats, and folks are going unrepresented and unheard. So showing up. Not only am I learning a lot from the people who attend these town halls, but everyone in attendance is getting to hear each other. Folks know that they're not alone when 750 other people show up in Amarillo, Texas, or that person who, for whatever reason, isn't a veteran, didn't serve their country. They get to listen to the man in Wichita Falls who says, how is cutting 83,000 jobs from the VA? Most of them, by the way, will be veterans who will lose their jobs. Yeah. How is that going to help me get in and see somebody for my service-connected disability or my behavioral health appointment? There's a lot of power in bringing people together. And it does feel a lot like 2017. When I first got out there on the road, people understand clearly what is happening to this country, undermining the Constitution, the rule of law, the attacks on our fellow Americans, especially the most vulnerable. And they want to see us fight, all of us. And I think this false choice being offered to Democrats, are you going to be more moderate, more centrist? Right. Are you going to be more progressive? It's the wrong question. Are you going to surrender or are you going to fight? People want us to fight.
They were key in bringing home Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia is alive and was able to meet with Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland earlier this evening. We have now heard both from Senator Van Hollen and from El Salvador President Bukele separately on social media with very different tones. So I want to give you a run through of what happened. Van Hollen was in El Salvador, met with the vice president, was banging down the door, tried to get access to Abrego Garcia. Then first we had Bukele's tweet. Hey, I guess he wanted to get out ahead of Van Hollen. He sent a snarky tweet that was so snarky that there was like a moment where people were wondering if this was real or AI or whatever. But he wrote this. We'll put it on the screen here. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, miraculously risen from the death camps and torture, now sipping margaritas with Senator Van Hollen in the tropical paradise of El Salvador. So a couple of observations there. If you just look at the picture, those don't look like margaritas to me. Obviously, we have some more important items here, but it's pretty clear they're trying to kind of act like, everything's okay. And he's just kind of hanging out at the White Lotus or whatever. And so they put these little cherries on top of what appears to be, who knows, white rum, margarita water, dirty water. I don't know, but that's not a fucking margarita. I'll tell you that.
I just asked you, Madam Secretary, whether or not you or the Department of Homeland Security are taking any action to facilitate the 9-0 Supreme Court decision to facilitate his return. This is a very simple question. Are you taking any action to facilitate his return, or are you not?
This administration is following and complying with all federal court orders to make sure that we.
So you are because the court ordered that you facilitate his return. So you are facilitating his return.
Sir, Senator, thank you for the question. But what I would
Madam
tell
Secretary,
you is that we are following court orders,
Madam
and that your advocacy for a known terrorist is alarming to me.
Madam Secretary,
it's alarming to me because he's a human smuggler.
Madam Secretary, I'm going to have to reclaim
and
it.
a terrorist, and
Madam,
he's not a U.S. citizen. He's a citizen of El Salvador, and he's home. If he were to come back
Madam
here,
Secretary,
we would take him immediately.
All right,
back
I'm going to have to, Madam Secretary, you should know a couple facts then, which is, number one, in 2019, the immigration court said that he should not be returned to El Salvador because it would put his life in danger. The Trump administration at the time did not appeal that decision. After that, he got a work permit and was working legally in the United States of America. This is also why the district court and the appellate court and the Supreme Court have ruled as they have. I suggest that rather than make these statements here, that you and the Trump administration make them in court under oath, because despite what you just said, the federal district court whose judge is hearing this case right now said, and I'm quoting, that the administration has provided no evidence linking Abrego Garcia to MS-13 or any other terrorist activity.
I'm sure they were responsible for getting the Venezuelans out of CICOC. There's a legislation that they're trying to use to compel the Trump administration to release the Epstein files.
Jamie Raskin, the top Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, and Robert Garcia, the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee, along with Eric Swalwell and a whole host of other members of Judiciary and Oversight, are going to work hard on this issue on behalf of the American people.
So from the minority, is it true that we don't have the power to actually subpoena any of this information? But I guess it's the onus goes on to Representatives Raskin and Garcia to try to get the chairmen of their respective committees to subpoena this information from the DOJ. Is that correct?
That's correct. In the minority, temporarily, we do not have subpoena power. That power rests solely with the majority and the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, who, by the way, probably was one of the lead conspiracy theorists. I'm not familiar with exactly what he said on this, but it would be no surprise.
So we have just found out that Donald Trump and Pam Bondi are asking a judge to release the grand jury testimony. This is not the Epstein files. This is something completely different, really that no one is asking for. You have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of files. They opted not to have those, even though they're already in their possession, and are instead saying, we're going to go through this lengthy process that may or may not work out, where we're going to get some testimony that we can then choose what to release from within that testimony if a judge even opts to grant it. So for those Trump supporters and honestly, left, right, and center, people who want this information, are they being conned by virtue of what Trump and Bondi are offering them right now?
Well, no, because I don't think anybody's buying it. I mean, I think you just did a great job debunking it. The only thing I would add is that the grand jury files relate only to the prosecution of Epstein himself for what he did. It's a complete distraction. It's a red herring. It's don't look over here, look over there kind of thing. And, even for that tiny subset of the materials we might be interested in, and they're pretty much peripheral, but even within those, Rule 6E will provide that much of it will have to be redacted to protect victims and other people. So look, all of that is just a decoy. They've got the materials within their possession, and they can release everything, just redacting the information that would be identifying information for the victims.
What can Democrats do? What are Democrats doing right now to compel this information? And I ask this because we've seen multiple efforts where Democrats have sought votes in the House, both in the Rules Committee, on the House floor, even the Senate floor, to compel the release of these files. And 2 times in the Rules Committee, Republicans voted it down. 2 times in the House, Republicans voted it down. 1 time in the Senate, at the hands of Ruben Gallego, Republicans voted it down. And so what are our options here moving forward?
Well, we've also, in the Judiciary Committee, the Democrats have demanded a full bipartisan hearing where we subpoena all of this information, and we subpoena witness testimony from Attorney General Bondi, from FBI Director Kash Patel, from the Deputy Director Dan Bongino. So they come forward and everybody tells us everything they know about this whole nightmarish scenario.
So we have a major update from when we spoke just a couple of days ago, and that is on your bill that is going to be co-sponsored with Thomas Massie. Can you give a state of play in terms of the support that this bill might garner with Republicans?
Well, it's absolutely a game changer. Massie and I have worked together many times. We're teaming up on this effort. The bill would require the full release of the Epstein files and all of the evidence, of course, protecting victims and protecting the release of anything like child pornography. It's very precisely written. And we have the backing of all 212 Democrats. But here's what is incredibly encouraging. We already have 7 Republican co-sponsors, including people like Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tim Buchheit. These are very, very conservative MAGA figures. And so we have the votes now to force a vote in the Congress on this bill. It requires the bill to be there for 7 days. Then you've got to get everyone to sign a discharge petition. So we can't force the vote until September, but we will be able to get this passed through the House.
Okay, so let's talk about an effort that might actually force this to come to the spotlight sooner than even that. There's going to be a vote today in the Rules Committee. Can you give an update on what's going to happen there?
Well, the Speaker, Leader Jeffries, is putting this up in a good way today, putting up my bill with Massie, saying, well, why don't we vote on it today? We've got 7 Republican co-sponsors. The Democrats are ready to vote on it. Let's get this done. Let's not wait through August recess. The challenge is it's the Speaker's Rules Committee, and they can block the vote. Of course, it'll be very clear then that the Speaker is blocking that vote. And then we will need to have a discharge petition, meaning requiring everyone to sign on demanding a vote. And that can't happen for another 7 days since introduction, means that can't happen until the August recess, means we can't force literally a vote until September. But this is going to put the Republicans on record again. Are they for the release or not?
We have watched as the Republicans have staked so much of their credibility, so much of their identity on releasing these Epstein files. There was just a vote in the House and all of the Republicans came together unanimously to vote against advancing this effort to release the Epstein files. Can I have your reaction, first and foremost, to hearing so much about this issue that they purportedly cared so deeply about, and now when they have the opportunity to actually substantiate what they said and get these files into the daylight, they're the ones who served as the major impediment to it?
Yeah, I mean, none of this adds up. And, you know, you play a supercut of all of these MAGA figures and officials promising to do this. Even the Attorney General, as recently as a couple months ago, what she was saying to the Congress about having all these files on her desk and getting ready to release them. The president's posts on Truth Social over the weekend, I think, really revealed a deep insecurity and almost a panic about the 180 that they're doing on this issue,
which were supposedly really important to them at one point. They're going on podcasts and internet shows and whatever independent media is willing to host them, even hostile ones.
I'm curious why you wanted to talk to us.
What do you mean?
Well, like we don't have actually a lot of senators, especially ones who have very different ideology than us, reach out.
A new expansion pact just dropped recently with Israel-Palestine.
I hear you on the idea of like you want to talk about the economics and the unifying and cost of living, and I think that ignores a big elephant in the room, especially when you're talking about even Zoran Mamdani. The reason Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer don't want to endorse him is because of his position on Israel.
The centrists like their forever wars because it funds the military-industrial complex.
They support democracy against authoritarianism.
And so what I'm curious for your view on is, while, you know, I would love to debate you on your healthcare policy, I think we need Medicare for all, you think public option, your housing policy, et cetera. I'm just being really real with you. I don't really hear what you say if you are still supporting a genocide in Gaza.
On the hard left, we have pretty solid Palestinian support, and you notice this. Leftists on Twitter, the Palestine marches are much bigger on the left.
There are millions of other people who feel the same, that you have to at least cross this sort of moral threshold. There's no, you know, entrenched interest that's going to control. You have a spine, you have principles, you're willing to stand up for something.
Due to the Israeli money and no other reasons. If a politician that I like ever loses, it's because of Israel and nothing else. But what did give me pause was the many accusations of anti-Semitism.
Senator, it's not just a political issue, it's also a moral issue is what I'm trying to get to. So let's talk about those, you know, calling them balls and strikes, if you will. So first of all, do you accept that Israel has a policy of enforced famine and starvation in the Gaza Strip? This is a crime against humanity. Forced starvation is a crime against humanity.
The occupying power has a responsibility to get aid into the war zone.
I'm a YouTuber. You know, I have my words, that's all I have. But you're a United States Senator. Like you're not the president, but you have power.
Their simplistic view of how these things are resolved, it's all like Green Lantern stuff. I think, did I tell you about the Green Lantern theory of politics? I've been on a kick about this recently.
So what are you going to do? Because so far what we've seen, I mean, you voted for some of the aid that's been used to massacre children and innocents.
You know, their whole worldview is that the morality of these situations are very clear cut. And they think that similarly that the methods of resolving these problems are cartoonishly simple, and it's all bullshit. It's all nuts. And so then their audience, they're primed to believe that all of these problems can be solved just by snapping your finger. And so when they see the Democrats, for example, fail to get like a $15 an hour minimum wage, their brain just immediately goes to, well, they just didn't try hard enough, or they didn't actually want to do it.
For example, Senator Sawkin, if you were asked to support defensive weapons for Iran, defensive weapons for Russia, you wouldn't back that.
No, but Iran, but
they're defensive. They're just protecting civilians, right? So how is it different?
But because Israel's being shot at.
Well, so is Russia.
So is Iran.
Yeah.
So is Russia.
Ukraine's shooting at Russia right now.
Defensive Iron Dome capabilities while allowing the actual bombs killing Palestinians to continue. I've long stated that
Remember, especially for people like this, the only acceptable solution is the absolute and total annihilation of all the Jews. Zionists! Of all the Zionists, the country of Israel, okay?
I do not believe that adding to the death count of innocent victims to this war is constructive to its end. That is a simple and clear difference of opinion that has long been established. Oh, wow. Wow, what a humanitarian over here. I remain focused on cutting the flow of U.S. munitions that are being used to perpetuate the genocide in Gaza. And again, obviously, we've given a lot of credit to AOC, but we're also going to call balls and strikes, and this is a real L. We're going to take a look at some of the reactions in it. But my reaction to this is like, we're not funding an Iron Dome for like the civilians of Russia. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's lots of countries where the civilians are in harm's way.
What? I need a translator.
When we get even further left, why are we supporting Russia over here? What's going on?
Anything the West doesn't support.
Once you get here, you get to like Marxist-Leninism, tanky territory. And you hate NATO so much, you end up supporting Russia.
I'm sorry. This is the difference between allies, partners, and adversaries.
Why is he an ally then?
It's hard for me to understand why we should ally. Like, I'm sure you believe in, like, or claim to believe in liberal human rights. So B'Tselem and another Israeli human rights organization joined the global consensus, Amnesty International, some 800 scholars. There was a piece from an Israeli scholar in the New York Times in saying this is a genocide. Do you accept, even Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday came out and said it's a genocide. Do you accept that? And if you do, I mean, what responsibility does a United States senator have? Like, what responsibility does a United States senator have to prevent genocide and to stop genocide that we see ongoing?
I've been making this observation for like a few weeks now, or maybe a few months, but I've identified that the reason why they're insistent on the language is because I think they think it helps the activism. I mean, also, I think that I take them at their word. A lot of these people earnestly believe that the label applies. And so it's not just about like strategy, but I think they think that if you can get the person to say like, you know, okay, it's a genocide. Like if you can get them to say that, then it makes your job easier. It's like rhetorically to be like, well, then we need to be pulling out all the stops, and like, this is like World War II. This is like the Holocaust, right? So like we have to, in their minds, I think that they think that the word alone instills a kind of urgency that sort of backs somebody into a corner if they adopt that language.
Even if you accept that they're committing a genocide, you still wouldn't cut off their aid?
I think that defensive aid and offensive aid are different things, and I think at this point,
so
what
if
they're
Nazi
doing
Germany,
every single day,
if Nazi Germany said we want defensive aid, I mean, it's just you have to see where they're all weapons that are being shipped.
If the Israeli government is capable of funding the Iron Dome on itself, Israel just can't have its cake and eat it too. They can't simultaneously commit an offensive war with it.
Just so you guys know, I don't know why nobody understands this, okay? The Iron Dome is there to protect Arabs, okay? If you don't know anything about what's going on, just understand the Iron Dome exists to protect Arabs. Israel didn't win the war in 48 with the Iron Dome. They didn't win the war in 67 or in 73 because of the Iron Dome, all right? If you want to get rid of the Iron Dome, then fine, go for it. But then the next barrage of rockets is going to be the real genocide, all right? The next time, 100, 1,000 rockets come in and blow up, a quarter of Tel Aviv, the only reason you guys even have a leg to stand on is because that Iron Dome exists. You really think that Israel is going to tolerate getting randomly bombed constantly by its neighbors, number one, and then two, not retaliate with the fucking hand of God, now knowing that they have nothing to keep themselves from being randomly killed by right? Like, it's, so people don't even know what they're advocating for. It's so stupid.
Impunity and rely on the United States largesse. They can protect themselves. It doesn't necessitate Israeli deaths. It would also prevent them from being in a position to inflict such casualties on Palestinians. Do you accept that?
It's the exact opposite. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Jewish people or white people or what makes people so brain broken on this. Like, oh, okay. Well, your neighbor that's launching 5,000 million rockets at you constantly. Well, now we can't protect ourselves from them. What should we do? Let's go to them and negotiate in peace. The ones that are calling for global jihad against you, with the raped, body broken girl in the truck, those people, right? Yeah, okay, cool. All right, yeah, let's go and have happy, peaceful negotiations with them, and we're going to figure out all of our problems. It's going to be wonderful.
In
they're
another
not using
context,
the weapons that they're using right now. I mean, to be honest, if you look at what's happening on the ground, the military part of this conflict is, for the most part, over. What they are doing,
Senator,
every single day is around aid, and they are hurting people
they have
around the
slaughtered over
delivery of
1,000
aid.
people who were starving people just trying to get aid.
That is
I
not
know you
high,
know this.
That's not high intensity bombs. That's not the weapons that that we were talking about 2 years ago. It's just not.
The strategy is forced starvation
That
and
is-
ethnic
that is
cleansing.
not a-
That's
that is-
their strategy, and they're accomplishing it very effectively with the full backing of the United States government, including sadly Democrats. And so,
But remember, kids, that was Israel. Anything that bad that happens is Israel's fault somehow.
Excellent, my boy. Excellent.
I'm delighted to welcome, for the first time, Democratic Senator from Michigan, a former 3-term Congresswoman. She was a CIA analyst and served 3 tours in Iraq. She just today laid out an economic war plan for the Democratic Party during a speech at the Center for American Progress. Earlier today, we were taping this on Thursday. It's Senator Alyssa Slotkin. How you doing, Senator?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me.
Talk to us about the war plan.
Well, I mean, I've been a senator for 6 months now, and I just kind of got tired of waiting for someone else to come up with like a vision, playing a little offense. And I think, we hear a lot about how Democrats need to be playing defense because of what's coming out of the White House. But I don't know how you win in 2026 and 2028 and generally without playing some offense. So this was my best stab at an economic war plan and how to focus on the things that I hear from Michiganders they're focused on, which is their pocketbooks.
Do you think that's a fair criticism of the Democrats, that there was not enough of a clear, substantive economic message for voters, last year?
I mean, I don't know that that's a matter of opinion. I mean, just in my state, I guess I'll speak to that. In November, it was a pocketbook election. And a lot of people would say to me when we knocked on the doors, like, I don't like Donald Trump, but I just need someone to put more money in my pocket. And I think he's more ready and talking about doing that. And I don't really know what the Democrats stand for. I mean, that was something we heard repeatedly. And actually, if our political system were healthier and we weren't fighting all the time and we weren't snarking at each other all the time, we'd be focused on these big issues of our time: social media, artificial intelligence. The big movers are the ones that need most attention, and then they're ones that get the least attention because we're fighting about the big beautiful bill.
There was one tension in your speech for me a little bit, and it's something that I feel as well as somebody that likes the capitalist system, wants people to be able to feel like they can go and be wealth creators. But you said in the speech, essentially something to the effect of that we should stop demonizing rich people, we should stop demonizing success. But part of it's like, don't some of these rich people need to be demonized? Don't the people in charge of these algorithms that have, amount of wealth that is like unimaginable not that long ago, who are influencing the government, who are inviting Trump to their weddings? I mean, like, don't these guys need to be demonized?
We got to stop vilifying success. We want people to succeed. Yeah. We also want them to play by the rules, and the same set of rules that you and I and everyone listening have to abide by. And that is where things fall off, right? You can have very, very successful people who give lots of money, they hire lots of people, they're good humans. But then you get a lot of people who make all that money and they abuse their power. They get to skip out on playing by the rules. They abuse the system and manipulate it. And those people should be held accountable. But I think the thing that keeps coming up, I hear it from people in Michigan, they think that Democrats hate like small business owners, right? The guy who owns my grocery store, Holly Foods in Holly, Michigan, right? He's an immigrant. He's done very well. He bought one grocery store, then 3, then 7, right? He kept expanding. And he's like, I don't feel like I have a home in the Democratic Party. I'm a small business owner. I play by the rules. I pay my taxes. I'm struggling here. And I feel like you guys don't appreciate hard work and success. And that's not what I want for the party. There's a big difference between a small business owner who's doing well and like a major global corporation that's exploiting their workers. They are very different humans and very different problem sets. So that to me is the point, is that let's not just like be against anyone who's successful And I think there are certainly voices in our party where that comes off that way.
Basically, in the Republican Party, everybody's running in the image of Trump, like at this point. That was not the case 20 years ago. But you're going to have this off-year election where you have your fellow, however you want to brand it, moderate, women running in New Jersey and Virginia. And you've got this, a Democratic Socialist running in New York. Like, is that a workable coalition for you? When you guys are on the chain, are you like, we can learn stuff for Zoran, or we might have to distance ourselves from this part of the coalition? Like, how do you balance that?
In a diverse coalition, I think about it, I guess, in military terms, right? Like when you go to war or when you launch an operation, you have different teammates who are doing different things, right? You've got the infantry right up front, hand-to-hand combat if they have to. They're in the mud. And then you've got the air cover in the back. You've got logistics. You've got the tanks. I mean, you've got a lot of different things happening. But you need all those different players to be successful. And they need to work together. They need to communicate. They need to be on the same page on what the goal of the mission is. That's how I, in an ideal world, would see what Democrats are, is that we're working together and we each bring our strengths. There is no doubt that the social media game that we just saw in New York was strong, and there's lessons to learn from it. I just want to also be clear that there's lessons to learn from people who win in red and purple places, and that you please don't litmus test me out of your damn party if you like to win. And I think that's the two-way street we need to be on. And I mean, my job here in the Senate is to work with anyone who's interested in things that are going to make Michiganders' lives better. Honestly, it's my job to work across the aisle, even when I don't like it. It's my job to work with the most progressive members of the Senate, even when we don't agree. My job is results for Michiganders, and I do not care who you are and what you're, I got to get things done for my people. And that's how I approach kind of teamwork.
Yeah.
I keep saying this. I think Democrats have lost their alpha energy. I think we need to be tougher. I think we need to have a plan. We need to get like our coach energy up, which means you light a path through the dark tunnels so that people know where you're going. You hold people accountable when they screw up, and then you hug them and cry tears of joy when we succeed. And that, in my union halls, in my small businesses, at rallies, whatever, I could feel people wanting that. And they see that in Trump. And I think I had just a couple extra ounces of it than the average Democrat.
What, to Iran, which you mentioned before I lose you, what'd you make of the sort of military engagement at the top level? And then I'm curious about the sort of back and forth on the intel.
Yeah, to be honest, as someone who's a Middle East specialist by training and did 3 tours in Iraq and watched Iranian terrorism and ballistic missile program and nuclear ambitions up close, it's difficult. I had 2 thoughts, all based on my tours in Iraq. One, the Iranian government are not good actors, and we have been working on this kind of action for 20 years. Right? And so I didn't have a whole lot of love lost for their nuclear facilities. I'll tell you that. At the same time, my other thought was, I've seen what happens when a president thinks that a military action is going to be really quick, really easy, slam dunk. And then 20 years later, we still have troops in Iraq. Right? So, and I saw that up close and personal. So, and I just had a real trust issue with these guys in the White House and in the Defense Department being able to manage escalation, right? I mean, the Iranians shoot ballistic missiles at our base in Qatar, and they don't hit anyone, no one dies, thank God. But like, what if their telemetry had been off? What if we hadn't been able to defend and it had hit a chow hall and killed 40 Americans? What would we be doing right now? Do you think Donald Trump would have just sat down and let 40 Americans be killed in cold blood and not felt the need to react? War has a way of escalating outside your planning. And I do not trust these guys to manage that escalation. But I got to be honest, I didn't cry like big tears for the Iranian government who, have killed friends of mine when that action first took place.
Well, I'm not sure the gin is as good as the brand I usually use, but
I am joined today by Congressman Jim Hines. He is the ranking member of the House Intel Committee. We are here to talk about the attacks last night that occurred in Iran. When you heard about this, when your staff heard about this, when you received word of the operation, who you talked to in the administration, if you've gotten any briefs since then, I just would love to know sort of the TikTok here.
Yeah, no, nothing. I mean, the TikTok's very simple. I was sitting on my sofa last night, Saturday night, enjoying a cold beer when I read on Twitter that we had just attacked Iran. And, you know, I think I read that on Twitter probably 3 hours after the attack had occurred. That's a little strange for a member of the Gang of Eight. And I think the rest of the members of the Gang of Eight were in that, equally uninformed position. But much more importantly, is the constitutional issue at stake here. You know, this is not an administration that puts a high premium on abiding by the Constitution, but there's a reason why, when you have 40,000 American troops in the region, why you really want to have the debate and you want to play out the scenarios and actually have Congress authorize these things. Now, you may like that or you may not like that, but the fact is that that's what the Constitution says, and it says it for a reason.
You said you didn't get a briefing. You're on your sofa enjoying a beer. Have you gotten a briefing since?
No, we have not. My understanding is that there will be, and it's Sunday, right? So most of us are not in DC.
Sunday. We're recording this for the audience. We're recording this at 10:50 a.m. on Sunday, so it's been about.
And my understanding is that there may be a staff level classified brief in the next couple of hours. But again, it sort of doesn't matter, right? Because all of us raise our hand and take an oath to support and defend the Constitution, which says that the Congress will authorize these actions. And I need to point out here, right? Look, I think the Congress is comfortable with the fact that if there are, Soviet bombers on their way, or if there is a Japanese attack happening on Pearl Harbor, that in that instance, the president actually has the authority to respond in that minute, right? When there is an immediate threat to the homeland. But we are miles away from an immediate threat to the homeland. And this is precisely the case. The scenarios that could come out of this are so varied and range from actually pretty good to catastrophic. This is precisely the instance in which I think our founders would have the Congress debate this decision.
I mean, the pushback, I'm not saying I agree with it. I don't, but I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. The pushback, Ron Johnson, for instance, says, well, of course, Democrats weren't briefed. They would have leaked it. And then I guess more respectively, people are saying, well, it's sort of a unique window and an opportunity to act. We needed to jump at it. What do you say to those pushbacks?
Well, they're sort of conditions, right? You don't get to ignore the Constitution, right? I'm sure you can find lots of reasons to stop the freedom of expression enshrined in the First Amendment of people that you don't like. There's always a reason why you don't like something that is in the Constitution, but it's not a debatable point. That's why we call it the Constitution. So, again, what is a little startling to me, because we do all take an oath to the Constitution, is the extent to which, particularly my Republican colleagues, are totally willing to say, well, because the outcome here is good. Now, by the way, we have no idea whether the outcome is good or not. It may be weeks, months, or even years when we know whether the outcome is good. I do
want to get to that for sure, but go ahead.
Yeah, but anyway, my point is that they're saying, well, this was a good thing to do, so I'm not troubled by the constitutional stuff, right? If the Constitution means anything, that kind of reasoning has to stop at word one.
Okay, so you talked about whether the outcome is good. Before we get there, you also did say in your statement last night to this point that you call this a clear violation of the Constitution because it does require a declaration of war from Congress. And so I guess the question is, if it is a clear violation of the Constitution, what should be done about it?
Yeah, well, obviously the answer to that question is that the raid is done. There's no going back in time to stop that. This is not an administration that is going to in any way contemplate, any sanctions associated with an unconstitutional act. And needless to say, the Republican majorities in the House and the Senate, maybe with one or two people like Tom Massey dissenting or Rand Paul, are going to be completely uninterested in the fact that their Constitution was just violated. And instead, the conversation is going to turn to something that I think is also interesting, which is, does this turn out to have been a wise action? Now, I'm listening to administration officials say, oh, this was successful. Marco Rubio says this is a safer world than it was 24 hours ago. Marco Rubio doesn't know whether the trucks that Maxar took photographs of at the Fordo tunnel entrance, he doesn't know whether those trucks were taking the highly enriched uranium to a warehouse somewhere. So that what this strike actually accomplished was to close a bunch of tunnels in a mountain and didn't touch any highly enriched uranium. Marco doesn't know that. And so this is to my point that we won't know whether this is successful for, quite possibly weeks or months. The Iranians are not dumb people. They may be evil people, but they're not dumb people, right? So, and we've been telegraphing this strike for a long time. So let me paint for you a scenario that would, I think, cast some doubt on Marco Rubio's statement that it's a safer world. Let's imagine that the regime decided to move the highly enriched uranium out of Fordo 36 hours ago. Our very big bombs just took out an empty warehouse buried in a mountain, and somewhere, and I don't know if this is true any more than Marco Rubio knows it, somewhere in a warehouse right now, they are frantically converting, highly enriched uranium into weapons grade uranium. That's a possibility, and we don't know whether that's happening, and we may not know until, think back to the late 90s with Pakistan and India, where holy smokes, there was just a nuclear detonation. So anyway, nobody knows right now whether this was a good idea or a bad idea.
And I assume you saw Dmitry Medvedev's tweet. I guess everything's done on Twitter these days, and you get that, where he said, look, this didn't set back the Iranian nuclear program. In fact, now we can openly declare that that's what they're going to pursue. And on top of that, countries are now going to supply the Iranians with a nuclear weapon. Now, I'm not saying that is, we should take that as gospel, right? Because who knows? But I'm wondering how you view just the outward expression of that from such a high-ranking Russian official.
Yeah, look, the scenario I worry most about, because again, the Iranian regime, as evil as they are, they're not stupid people, right? And they could, decide to push every button and attack our troops, and that would probably be suicidal on their parts, and it would be ugly. But the scenario I really worry about is that the regime, not a bunch of dumb people, say, you know what? Ukraine gave up their nuclear weapons and Russia invaded. North Korea developed a nuclear weapon and nobody's invading North Korea. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to take the highly enriched uranium that we pulled out of Fordo 36 hours ago and we're sprinting to a bomb. That's a possibility that frankly worries me more than most, because again, they may go dark and be completely quiet and, and not say anything for the next 6 months while they're doing that. And I'm not saying that that's the scenario, but to me, that feels more likely than the Russians deciding that this is the moment to send them centrifuges or anything.
Well, since we're talking scenarios, obviously everyone's mind drifted towards what are the retaliatory acts that Iran takes. That would be one of them, but that's sort of a longer term or middle to longer term one. What are the shorter term ones that you worry about or that Americans should worry about?
Well, of course, the scenario that's getting a lot of play is that, because the regime needs to appear strong, they launch military attacks on the 40,000 troops that we have in the region. The naval base at Bahrain and the air base at Qatar are, a 60-second missile flight from Iran. Kill a bunch of Americans. We can defend those bases, but not perfectly. They mobilize terror cells around the world that they have set up. They close the Straits of Hormuz. Hello, $6 a gallon gasoline in the United States, because 20% of the oil of the world moves through the Straits of Hormuz. Or even second order things like, the Palestinian street in Jordan finally says, you know what, Jordan's been friends with the United States and Israel for too long. We're taking down the king, right? By the way, that almost happened in the 1970s. So you can spin a lot of ugly scenarios out of this. And to be fair, because I think it's important to talk about this in an impartial way, yeah, it's possible that the Iranian people rise up tomorrow morning and say, oh my God, this regime can't even protect us. They're done. We're out. And they, the next spring, we're picnicking at Samarkand. That's a possibility, but it's not a possibility that historical acts of American military intervention in the Middle East would cause you to bet the house on.
I swear to God. Crystal Ball, Kyle Kulinski.
Now he's in office. He's doing way more like dictatorial and fascist than anyone could have imagined.
What the fuck are you talking about, man?
And you all are acting like everything is fine and this is no big. We'll just let him punch himself out and it's fine and it's no big deal and there's no plan to fight back.
Are you fucking kidding me?
There's no strength There's no energy. There's no sense that you understand how important this moment is and you're ready to fight back with everything you have, even acknowledging, yes, the limits of you're in the minority, et cetera, et cetera. And I think you put all those things together and there is just a utter level of disgust that I think is only going to grow. I think the ground is really fertile for exactly that kind of energy and grassroots movement against these lame, sorry, sad sack, decrepit Democratic leadership class. We'll see, if anyone picks up the mantle.
And here's the thing. Who is actually fighting Trump? Who's leading the way in fighting Trump? We all know the answer to that.
The left.
AOC.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders. People who are actually on the left. They're the ones who are sounding the alarm. They are the ones who are punching back. They're the ones who are sucking up all the noise in the room. That's why you hear a lot of people talk about like Maxwell Frost now is like emerged from nowhere as like, oh, look, he's actually saying things against the opposition party.
Yeah.
When you have these Democratic-based voters and it's the same feeling, the same mindset as 2017 where they're like, okay, I will follow whoever will lead us out of the darkness and fight back against the fascists. And now it's clear the people who actually believe in that and want to do that and have an ideology to boot, it's the left. And so you're seeing this rapid transition. Yeah, the ground is fertile for like a left-wing Tea Party. And it's funny because I was a co-founder of Justice Democrats. That was the whole idea of Justice Democrats. But as I said on my show, I think maybe we just didn't have the right timing. Yeah, every single Democrat who's joining the Doge caucus or trying to work with Trump and all these, done, son, you're done. If you voted for the Lake and Riley Act, you're done, skis. It's over. It's a wrap. Like, any cabinet member, if you voted for any Trump cabinet member, over, done. Like you would have primary opponents who would actually win in that scenario. And so, yeah, like it's that you're not going to get that like swagger, that aggression, the shit posting, the being edgy about it. You're not going to get that among these like these weak-kneed liberals who are already like sort of making peace with Trump or semi-making peace with Trump or trying to like, oh, I'm going to politic my way out of this and split the difference. Like, bitch, it is not 1992. It's not. That's not going to work. Here, I know this is controversial, but bipartisanship is dead. It's over. It's gone. It's done.
Yeah, I'm over that.
Democrats get lowest rating from voters in 35 years. Republicans are seen as better at handling most issues that decide elections despite respondents' unease with Trump over the economy, tariffs, and foreign policy. So in other words, and this is true based on all the polling that we've seen, Trump is plummeting. Trump is imploding. His numbers are trash. He's underwater on literally every single issue, including immigration, which historically he's always been above water. So, but even though Trump is imploding, when you ask voters about the Democratic Party, they go, oh, I fucking hate him. I despise him. So Democratic leadership has this plan of let's sit back, let's chill, let's shut the fuck up, let's let Trump hang himself, let's let the Republicans hang themselves, and then we swoop in and save the day.
Net favorability of each party. I just want to point out, like, once we get to 2015, it's right about here. You see this enormous drop in the party right here. And then, like, they just fall off of a fucking cliff here. And meanwhile, Republicans, like, they're not popular right now either, to be clear. But they've sort of, like, stabilized at like a healthier baseline here. Are we really not going to entertain the possibility that alternative media is dramatically influencing this situation right here? Do we not even want to have that conversation? Because if you have that conversation, you need to address this. This is a real thing. This is real. It is true. It is indisputable. It is real. Not a made-up thing. It's real. If you're on the right, shitting on Dems is how you demonstrate the shared hatred that make you part of the tribe. If you're on the center left, shitting on Dems is how you demonstrate above it all independence that earns you the admiration of peers. If you're on the left, shitting on Dems is how you demonstrate the moral and ideological purity that are the price of membership. If you're the media, shitting on Dems is how you fight off accusations of bias and establish your, quote, objectivity. There is no faction in U.S. politics, barely even elected Dems, for whom praising Dems is socially advantageous. There's no approbation waiting, no reputational boost for anyone. It is, from almost every vantage point, uncool. Just try it on Twitter and see for yourself.
If you actually were to care about stuff, campaign on stuff, make an argument, fight, then it wouldn't even be a question if you were going to win or not, and you would win in crushing margins. But they've actively made the decision to do nothing, to say nothing, to shut the fuck up and let the Republicans hang themselves. But clearly what they didn't realize is, you do know it's possible, right? That yes, Trump's numbers can implode and the Republican numbers can go down, but yours can go down even more. And that's where we are.
Things like the proposed redistricting in California, that's like a really intense, extreme kind of fight right there. But they're out of power, so they can't, you know. And this kind of ties into like, I think most Americans have Green Lantern theory of politics. I think most Americans think that Democrats like should have a way to stop these things from happening.
Why? Because Republicans, what do they always do? They super serve their base. And so the base is rock solid. They never abandon their base. Their base is always going to ride or die for them. Democrats, on the other hand, hate their base and say fuck you to their base and do none of the things their base wants them to do. But this is what we've been warning about for so long, is like, yes, the Republicans will hang themselves. Trump will hang himself because they believe in stupid things. They destroy everything they touch. That's all true. But that's not like, it's not guaranteed that like, oh, they like you because they hate them. No, they could hate both of you, right? You have to give them a reason to like you. You have to make an argument. Most importantly, you have to fight. When people think of Democrats, they think of weak. They think of pathetic. They think of loser. They don't think of like a crusading warrior who believes in what they're advocating for, right? They don't think of somebody who never backs down, stands their ground. They don't think that.
Hassan Piker.
Democrats, if they were in charge right now, would be doing 100% the exact same thing, 1-to-1. Make no fucking mistake. Anyone who tries to tell you that Kamala Harris will be different is a fucking delusional moron. Do not listen to them. I'm literally broadcasting what I do. I work to de-radicalize people, okay? Right-wingers, I want to pull away from the throes of right-wing radicalization. And for liberals, I want them to understand that liberalism is not the end-all be-all, that there are real systemic problems that we must solve. This is not something that I hide. This is something that I openly mention all the fucking time. And I'm literally not hiding it here. You can't say I'm hiding my power level when I'm broadcasting it. This doesn't make any sense. The program that I'm on is literally called Deprogram. And this is not even something that is a secret that I only revealed here for one moment. It's something that I tell my audience all the time. In order to be a better advocate, you have to read the fucking room. Okay? You have to read the room. Be normal. These are commonly held principles that I have to fucking hammer onto the heads of all these like weirdos in my community from time to time. Liberals themselves also play the role of a bottleneck for any kind of progressive momentum in this nation. You have the capacity not to be this person. This was packaged by liberals and Republicans, who are also liberal, alike. Motherfuckers, and by the way, do not, another thing you shouldn't do is fucking ever, for a moment's notice, try to listen to liberals who will use this as an opportunity to be like, oh, fuck Bernie Sanders. Neoliberals do not have a problem with austerity. As a matter of fact, they love that shit. But when it comes to the cops, they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. The messaging here is not good, sweaty. Populism when centrist liberals throw around platitudes and do nothing. This is the one thing that separates neoliberals from people like myself. When they say populist, they mean it as a negative. When I say populist, I mean real left-wing populist economic theory. Liberals point to that as, you want everyone to have a unicorn. You're over-promising and you're not going to be able to deliver. It's not like liberals actually end up delivering on their promises either, ironically enough. Liberals don't actually end up delivering on their promises either. The problem is they also don't even promise good things. They promise less and then don't even deliver on the little amount of promises that they made. Let's be really real. Liberals are not resisting the Trump administration. They're not. Liberals are too busy, both in the halls of Congress and outside, clapping at the normalization of Donald Trump and the Republican Party. What the f is wrong with liberals, dude? What the absolute f is wrong with liberals? Two things I tweeted last night. Liberals have gone crazy over yesterday, rather. One was this, which is from that like that like obviously pro-Russia account. Just stop talking to liberals, please, okay? The reason why normie liberals think it's effective is the exact same reason why they think Kamala Harris is brilliant for tacking to the right. Because they're 1, stupid, 2, terrified of Republicans, and 3, they kind of like Republicans at the same time, okay? That's why everything liberals advocate for, everything liberals talk about comes from a place of fear, okay? To have liberals go, what? Both on the Republican side and the Democratic side. That's the broadest majority of people. That's all they care about is the aesthetics of a slogan. That's it. Or what a slogan makes them feel. It's so selfish. It sucks because there's an argument to be made to these disgusting f***ing liberals in New York, these elitist, smug, entitled, out-of-touch liberals about why Zoran is the man for the moment. And that is, he's a fighter. Raising Democratic women. Oh God, I can't fucking stand liberals, man. I literally, I can't. Inflating Israel with Judaism is dangerous. Maybe just hyper focus on that aspect and talk about the cynical conflation being crafted by both liberal Zionists, and also the Nazis alike. Liberals are showing their bellies, okay? Understand. This is why I said, looking at exactly what German liberalism looked like in the build-up to Nazi Germany, okay? German business owners, German capitalists. There are plenty of people with fucking awful, god-awful ideas. We call them conservatives or neoliberals or liberals. You work for us, you animals. You work for us. We don't work for you. You work for us. That's why I get so angry at liberals who even come in here now and say, oh, aren't you worried about your decisions now? Kamala would never do this. It's like, dude, you are such a moron. Democracy is not about team sports. Swear to God, like these people literally fucking need to, I don't know, I can't say, okay, I can't. Liberals are the most like scummy, vile fucking idiots. Like professional liberals are just as scummy and just as fucking vile as like professional Republicans are. It is complete psychotic. It's completely fucking psychopathic, okay? Why is there no socialist counter to this? Why is there no liberal counter to this? Well, it's because, well, one, liberals suck, okay? They just suck ass. They are awful. It just goes to prove once again that liberals are so stupid that they don't understand what he's saying because he speaks fast and confidently, and they just care about the aesthetic. Oh my God, dude. Liberals are a burden on this planet, dude. Liberals, even well-intentioned liberals, are just such a burden on intellectual thought. My God, dude. Culture war issues, oftentimes deployed by liberals as a mechanism of distraction, as a mechanism of division among the working class. They will never mention that. Liberals don't want to mention that. Republicans don't want to mention that, partially because they're all right-wing pieces of shit, right? But there's a reason why they're called public servants, you know? They serve us. They're servants. Actually was interested in doing their civic duty when that is not the case. Republicans are evil across the board, period. Most Democrats are evil too, but Republicans are like really, 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 really evil. And I fucking hate any initiative that tries to make it seem like they're so much different than Donald Trump. Because a lot of people, even on the left, and I'm not referencing liberals now, I'm actually talking about leftists, like Marxists, Marxist-Leninists, tankies. I say I hate America all the time. A lot of motherfuckers want to kill me over that take, but at least I say it with my fucking chest. People will be like, Hassan, you hate America. I'm like, yeah, I do. I do hate America. People will be like, Hassan, you hate cops. I say, yeah, I do. Why? I'm not a pussy.
I'm cool with all of this as long as the fucking LARPers get the fuck out of my community, okay?
I'm going to annoy my chat because this is a term that I've been talking about like nonstop for like 2 months now, but are you familiar with the Green Lantern theory of politics?
We got the fascists in power as a result of this because the American people didn't believe that Democrats could fight anything, including a fascist. And so now we've got people getting black bagged off of the street. Now we don't have a Department of Education. Now 12 million people are losing their Medicaid. Now the hospital I was born in can no longer deliver babies in the east side of Kansas City, Missouri, because they thought those black mothers that largely make it up nowadays because of gentrification and the fact that all of these people have been shoved to the east poor side of Kansas City aren't worth it to have their own NICU or any kind of delivery services. These are the real life consequences of Donald Trump. And because the Democrats thought they could people and lie to them about, oh, we're actually fighting for $15 in minimum wage, or oh, we're actually going to cancel your student loans, when they never had an intention of doing it. They rolled over immediately, so they lost and handed
They never had the intention of doing student loans?
No, they did not.
Well, why did he do it?
Did it work out? You know what I'm saying? Like, listen to yourself.
What do you
People
mean,
hate
did
it.
it work out?
Oh, the Republicans struck it down. That's what the Democrats always say.
No, the court struck it down, bro. What do you mean?
TYT.
So he comes in, then he just all of a sudden does nothing for 4 years, right? To be fair, he did Obamacare, which, by the way, yes, was a right-wing plan from the Heritage Foundation to just do a little pressure release, right? But don't fix it. Don't even do a public option, okay? And mandate that they buy from us private insurance, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So then I thought, well, maybe he won't win the second time around. But when the campaign came around, back came Obama the lion. He was shredding Mitt Romney, right? Whenever it's about Obama, he's the greatest warrior I've ever seen. Whenever it's about you, he's like, I couldn't find my walking boots. Like, I couldn't do it. Oh, why don't you do something? Why don't you stop navel gazing? Do you know how many seats, I said loser. Do you know how many seats we lost under Obama, the Democratic Party? 1,000 seats nationwide. And did Obama care? Did Rahm Emanuel care? Did any of those corporate Democrats care? No, because they were fine. Their own careers were fine. The Democratic Party burned. They're like, yeah, but the donor check clear? Donors. So, and Obama's like Israel. When you criticize Israel, everybody's anti-Semite, so you're not allowed to criticize Israel. Obama, you criticize him, they're like, he was the first black president, racist. Now, I don't give a goddamn what you say.
I know.
Obama was a donor servant, that's it.
So this is Green Lantern.
I'm not interested in being a little propagandist for any political group. I think both parties are garbage. I think that they have totally failed the American people. And I'm going to stop pretending like Democrats are somehow better than the Republican Party. They're not. They're not.
Yeah.
What the Biden administration
I mean, they literally are.
What the whole
They literally are. Pretty inarguable.
And look, is Trump in the files? Look, his name is all over. Hold on, this is really important. His name is all over, but I get it because he was really, really good friends with Jeffrey Epstein. They were nearly best friends for about 15 years, and both have said that. But that doesn't mean that he did the crimes. So and if he's innocent.
Whoa, these are our allies. These are our allies. These are the people who are on our side. Kick them the fuck out. These are not your friends. These are not your friends, Democrats. These are not your friends. Start over, okay? This is the best time to do it because Republicans are going to lose their shit when Daddy Trump is gone, okay? Start over. These cannot be the people that call themselves Democrats or liberal or anything related to ours. Call them something different. They cannot be part of your movement. This isn't, you can't win.
The majority report.
Democratic favorability is that it hasn't been this low in 35 years. And Democrats are still up in the generic ballot, but not where they were relative to this time in Trump 1, which is indicative of the failure of this strategy where, we can afford as Democrats to be as completely limp and ineffectual as possible. Only to the extent that sometimes we're actually offensive and run contrary to what our base wants. But the hatred of Donald Trump will generate what we need in terms of numbers.
The Democrats cannot half step on this story. We're
gonna half step, and then we're not gonna do anything.
We're just going to criticize what they do.
Right. It's not just corruption. Say this is a way to get around releasing the files that he promised. What is he hiding? Who else is implicated? Donald Trump is the protector of the elites. Yeah. I mean, it's just it's. Emma. That's the salient point here. Is that, yeah, I know.
Look, we could say the elite thing, but I don't want to upset some of our donors. So let's not say that.
No kings.
Okay? No kings.
He subscribes to the Green Lantern theory of politics, which is something I just learned about, which is it's like, are you familiar with that? It's kind of obscure reference.
And whatever fucking stupid shit Taylor Lorenz has to say.
I just want to talk about 2020 a tiny bit more for a couple minutes, because again, there's this multi-billion-dollar propaganda campaign to try to make you forget all of this stuff.
Awesome. Oh, wow. Totally freaked me out. I mean, right on.
They're so dumb. And all they do is espouse some version of populism that they're somehow supposed to accomplish by shitting on the party that could gain enough political power to have that happen.
So I guess I should say something about the political implications of all this, since I guess this channel is about politics. Sometimes I have to read my own Wikipedia article to remember what I'm doing with my life. So this morality of resentment, of impotence, and permanently frustrated revenge judges that power is evil. There was a New York Times article about young women's attitudes toward political ambition, and one of the women who was interviewed said, "As a white woman, I know I have unearned privilege. So am I really the best person to be in leadership?" Yes. Yes, you are. Because we need leaders like you who are capable of questioning the legitimacy of their own authority. Otherwise, we're just gonna be stuck with another blonde beast of prey. And of course, it's good to be aware of your privilege, especially as a leader, but let's not be so self-effacing that we efface ourselves off the face of the earth. This is the self-sabotage of resentment values. If you think power is evil, then you've given up on the ambition to acquire any power, which virtually guarantees your political irrelevance, since, like MLK said, you have to at least have some power to implement the demands of justice. Remember what incels call taking the black pill, this conviction that the reason you don't have a girlfriend is just that you're genetically undesirable. There's nothing you can do to change it, and I guess women are just too shallow to be attracted to all the amazing hatred and spite that festers in your heart. For a lot of black-pilled incels, it seems like there's only one thing left in life that they enjoy, which is simply the pleasure of complaining, of moaning in pain. So incels are kind of a universal punching bag online. It's very easy to point and laugh at them, but what's harder is to look in the mirror and notice how these exact same tendencies are rampant in our own communities. So the incel black pill is just one instance of what I call an ideology of resentment, a discourse that outwardly appears like moral or political critique, but which on examination is mainly just a resentful moan. The goal of resentment politics is not to improve conditions. In fact, the resentful person is full of contempt for any morally compromised sellouts who are attempting to enact plausible reforms. They don't want victory. They don't want power. They want to endlessly critique power. Because for them, critique is an important psychological defense against feeling impotent. As a general rule, the more radical a political community claims to be, the more likely it is to be a community of resentment. Self-styled radicals will tell you, superficial surface reforms do not interest us. The problem must be critiqued at its root. And then the root turns out to be this universal, all-encompassing evil, right? Society itself, the system, the machine. A resentment ideologue always imagines himself to be engaged in a kind of satanic revolt against an omnipotent, omnipresent enemy. Okay, I just need to do makeup for a second. It's harder than it looks to be a makeup vlogger. Like, it's hard to talk while doing this. And nothing short of total revolution counts as any sort of victory whatsoever. We have to dismantle the entire system, burn it all down. But release from the general anguish of human existence is not a political goal. There's been many revolutions in the last few centuries, and so far, 0 utopias. Resentment, envy, and hunger, for that matter, are not satiated by the downfall of the old regime. When the people have no bread, they eat the rich. And when the rich are gone, they eat each other.
The thing is, to a certain point, you really don't need a coalition with leftists, especially ones that are illiberal. If you notice that they don't seem to be taking the threat that the Trump administration has had on our country so far very seriously, you could probably assume that they're an accelerationist. And if you're curious what I mean by that, essentially, they are so severely anti-capitalist that they would rather see the world burn than get incremental change through political power. So yeah, that's stupid. So despite like having no power really in Congress, they've still tried to use their vote where they can. They've done public outreach, using as loud of opposition to things that need to be challenged. They are, and their loyal base needs to champion their accomplishments, because otherwise nobody's gonna know what's going on. And that's the thing that Trump and MAGA does really well, is they celebrate every opportunity they can about any action they've taken, whether or not it deserves celebration, and everyone rallies behind it. I don't know if you know this, but Fox News is like 80% not news. There's like a couple of hours where they're actually doing like legitimate news reporting, even though it's slanted to the right. The rest of it is literally like opinion shows or commentary or like satire of some sort. They're considered entertainment and they get passed off as news. I don't know why that's like still happening and why it's not pointed out more, because they have no credibility and we keep pretending like they do. Okay, I'm done. I hope you enjoyed this video. It'd be cool if you liked it and subscribed to feed my starving ego. Yeah, fuck leftists right now, unless you support the liberals and the Democratic Party. And if you don't, your mom's a
It's the same fucking, you know, like, just do the thing, you know. I keep talking about Green Lantern theory of politics, but